You all got quiet. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hillsboro Airport Fall Community Forum. Today is Tuesday, November 4th, and we're here at Hidden Creek, starting right now till about 7 p.m. The online portion of this meeting will end at 6:30. My name is Frances Portillo. I am with Portillo Consulting International, and I am today's facilitator. I was thinking about this. I think I've been with this HIO project for about 4 years. I'm looking over there to see if I see nods. I'm thrilled to be here as part of the Board of Portland's continuation of community engagement. I'd also like to introduce Karen Hahn. She's part of Portillo Consulting International right here as technical and support partner. As always, we got to take care of logistics first. As you heard, the meeting is being recorded for note-taking purposes. For those of you on the line, you don't have one of these, but please remember to put the mute button on when you're not speaking. For today's meeting, we also have closed captioning and Spanish interpretation available. So just want to make sure for the people on the technology, if you want to access Spanish interpretation, you click on the globe that's down at the bottom, usually on the far right. You select Spanish. All others who are on Zoom will need, or is it Teams? When I say Zoom, oh, you say Zoom too. Okay, good. When I say Zoom, all others need to select English. So it's not that, it's assumed that it's English. You go into the global piece, you select Spanish or English. We get our interpreter, Victor, over there to make sure. And if anyone has questions, wait just 1 second, make sure we have everybody in the right place. Oh,
There we go.
thank you. Now you all see me. Okay. So today we also have the Q&A feature available. We're going to use this for multiple purposes. Number one, you can submit a question or comment at any time. You can like or unvote questions from others. And if you are interested in providing verbal public comment, you put your name into the box, and during the Q&A session, you will have 3 minutes for public comment. If you need tech support, please send a message via the Q&A box. Before we get started, I want to quickly go over the group agreements for today's session. As we share space, let's be mindful of our group agreements. Oh, thank you. I told everybody before we started, we're going to be really generous with learning as we go. So now we've got the right one up. Go quickly over the shared agreements. This is a place that we're trying to create welcoming and a safe environment for everyone, and we can do this in these ways. This forum is an opportunity for you to be heard and for all of us to listen to each other. So please be mindful of how much you speak and create space for others to share. We value everyone's perspective, and so we want to share the space. Listen to understand. Listen for opportunities in which you might learn something and can build on that instead of just thinking about what we want to say by ourselves, but how we work together. And also, the last one, be attentive to your needs. Do what's necessary to feel comfortable. If that food was tasting good and you need to get some more, please don't hesitate. Creature comforts as well. So, as you read them one more time, by staying in this session, we assume you agree to abide by these group agreements. Yeah. Today's agenda includes community sponsor spotlight, presentation on Hillsboro Airport updates, then we'll have time for the Q&A and the public comment. As I said before, the online meeting will end at 6:30 p.m. But we'll continue in this room for about 30 minutes for in-person guests to talk with port staff or community. A quick note about Q&A public comment section. it's important for us to hear from you. You are our community members. The opportunity to hear public comment and questions will begin at about 6 and will go till 6:30. With that, I'll pass it on to June Reyes from the Port of Portland to introduce our community sponsors.
Thank you, Francis, and thank you for everyone for being here today. My name is June Reyes. I am the Community Impact Program Manager, and I wanted to introduce our community sponsors today. So our community sponsors, what they do is they help increase the port's reach in the Hillsboro community by stretching our outreach efforts. Greater Than and Oregon Air Show Charitable Foundation are two community organizations working in the Hillsboro area with a track record of engaging kids and families. So we'll give both of the organizations a few minutes to share more about their work. And so first up, I want to invite Jessica Arsate from Greater Than to talk a little bit more about the organization. Hey.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Arsate, she, her, and I am the Chief Impact Officer with Greater Than. Greater Than is a nonprofit working in partnership with two school districts across the metro area. On the east side, we're working in partnership with the Reynolds School District, and here in Hillsboro on the west side, we're in partnership with the Hillsboro School District. Did I say Reynolds up first? Reynolds Hillsboro School District. And in Reynolds, we partner with students, and we serve students who are living and enrolled in the Alder catchment area, which encompasses most of Rockwood. And here in Hillsboro, we work with students who are enrolled at Lincoln Street Elementary School, which we call like the downtown partnership. And both communities share many strengths and are both high opportunity neighborhoods that are impacted by systemic racism and hold back families from thriving to their fullest. At the heart of our organization, we are an education nonprofit. We are deeply rooted with community and committed to transform education for underrepresented and historically excluded students. And we do that in a very specific way. So at Lincoln Street, if a student is enrolled in this school, our focus area is in this catchment area here surrounding Lincoln Street. Every student that is enrolled here is part of our impact model, and we follow the students as they matriculate through the Hillsboro, through the catchment area, which is Lincoln Street Elementary School, Evergreen Middle School, Glencoe High School, and then when they graduate from Glencoe High School, we still partner with students as they're moving on to post-secondary. So whatever they choose post-high school, we have student success specialists who are following and making sure that they're connected to career opportunities and living wage jobs. The reason why we are excited to be part of this partnership is because in 2024, Greater Than was selected to be part of the Aviation Equitable Development Project as a community engagement arm with the city of Hillsboro. And the project focuses on creating strategies to benefit the existing community and prevent displacement. So we have led community engagement efforts for the Community Advisory Committee and recruited families specifically from Lincoln Street to serve and make decisions as part of this group, because that area, it pretty much encompasses the area where our students are enrolled and live in. And we convene student focus groups, we convene community focus groups, and every month are part of the Community Advisory Committee through Avenida 10, which is 10th Avenue for those who are familiar with the area. And again, like I said, we are really grateful to have this partnership with the Port of Portland and the Hillsboro Airport. And this forum is an important step for us as we are actively expanding and growing our community advocacy and equitable redevelopment efforts in Hillsboro. Our goal here is to really equip and support our families to lead advocacy efforts and to address systemic barriers that impact their children's education and well-being. Even as an education-focused organization, we we understand, we understand that what happens outside of the school system really impacts learning inside. So that's why we're excited to be part of this. I'm going to pass it on to Francis.
You just, and now we're gonna hear from Chris Barber, the Oregon Air Show Charitable Foundation. Take it away.
Much. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Barber, part of the Oregon Air Show Charitable Foundation. Appreciate the opportunity to come up here. We are a 501c3 that is primarily focused on scholarships and hands-on learning opportunities for members of our diverse community and empowering them to find career paths, both high-wage, high-demand jobs that exist today in the aviation and aerospace community. And joining me today, part of our board right now, we have Alexander that's come out here tonight as well. We have Tyler Wright that is acting as our executive director, and we have Sherry Brownlee that pretty much made a lot of this curriculum that we'll talk about in here. First off, I do want to say thank you very much for the board in June for providing us the opportunity to be one of your title sponsors this year right now and allowing us to be part of a further partnership with the Port of Portland. It's extremely humbling to us, but it's a partnership that we've had for over 5 years right now and continue to grow, so we look forward to that as well. Now, our mission is to support those with a passion to flight and desire to learn. And our vision is to find opportunities for students in the diverse community, providing those high-wage, high-demand jobs throughout the Pacific Northwest, specifically right now in the Hillsboro area. There's two important aspects I want you to hear as we walk away from this short little presentation. The first is that we're not really focused on aviation completely. What we're focused on is creating the next generation of leaders. We're using the tools and empowering students in order for them to inspire and chase their dreams. We use the means through aviation, and we hope that they are going to go down that career path, but we're also inspiring the next generation. The second thing that I was surprised at when we launched this program about 6 years ago is what this did to our community, how it brought us together. And June, thank you for allowing us to say that today, because it really has. Through the Port of Portland, we've had an opportunity to be able to develop a career path with the partnership with the Hillsboro School District, PCC, and Alaska Airlines. Multiple other organizations have jumped in on board because they see how we are inspiring the next generation. So thank you for coming tonight so that you can see that happen as well. How we're made up, as I mentioned, we have the Oregon Air Show Charitable Foundation. But underneath that is the program that we're talking about tonight. That program is the Pacific Northwest Aerospace Careers for Everyone. And it's primarily focused in 3 areas. The first one is the Oregon Aerospace Careers Education Program. Ms. Brownlee over here is the one that primarily charted that, but she's the one that developed a career path inside the Hillsboro School District, where we have both pilots and mechanics. And through the generous donation opportunity through the Port of Portland, we've been able to transform a classroom. So students now are taking classes at the Hillsboro School District, through the Hillsboro School District at the Hillsboro Airport, looking out at the career path that you're doing in there as well. We've had over 40 graduates from that. Currently, we have about another 70 kids that are in that program right now, learning about both pilots and mechanics and pursuing their career pathways as we go from that. The second tier that we talked about right now is the after-school program. And while this is focused currently right now in Hillsboro School District, we also have expanded out to Portland Public and McMinnville. We have 6 after-school programs, and we're kind of using this year truly as that opportunity to prove that beta test, make sure this works before we take that throughout all of the Pacific Northwest and Oregon to expand that reach out, providing these kids with that after-school opportunity. And we were very blessed here in Hillsboro to have the Hillsboro School District create that CT program for them. But this gives us the opportunity to reach into other districts and connect with more kids, which is our primary passion. We can go into a lot of detail on that, but the bottom line is, again, we're having these kids be the leaders of the next generation out there inspired. And the last thing I want to talk about, the last track there, is this workforce symposium. All of you are here for a reason. I'm not 100% sure why, but for some reason are connected to aviation, it seems like. And as you know, aviation touches every facet of life. We've been working with the Hillsboro School District, PCC, or Portland, and the Port of Portland to transform the the Oregon International Air Show, to transform that portion of the air show into a student-led, student-run event. Our goal here is aviation touches every facet of life. So what we want to do is connect connected learning and have students, whatever facet of life that they're interested in, come in and actually be able to run certain events in the show. Again, as you can see, the focus is on the students being leaders and challenging that. This last year, we brought over 3,000 students out, both third grade and middle grade, to the air show. And we allowed them to have STEM engagements. The key on that was exciting though, is we had high school students leading those events. They were the ones that were showing up. So rather than an old guy like myself trying to talk to a younger generation out there, we had peers that are in that spot. We had a bunch of third graders that recognized that this is something I can do. It's close to attainable. So that's our mission. That's our goal. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I want to thank you for the Port of Portland for allowing us to be your partner and to be with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris and Jessica. You said that this was inspiring to the students. As I listened to you speak, I was thinking, I'm feeling inspired. You brought me some joy. And I think there's a lot of hope for our future. So thank you to our community sponsors. Now it's time for an update on Hillsboro Airport. To give us some context for the work at Hillsboro Airport, we'll begin with Steve Nagry sharing more about the mission and the role of the Port of Portland, whose work goes beyond just managing the Hillsboro Airport. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you very much, Francis. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Sorry, a little bit of a sore throat here today. I also want to take the opportunity to thank our community sponsors for joining us tonight for Greater Than and the Jordan International Airshow Charitable Foundation. I think you'll see just in general a level of partnership that we're trying to achieve with the community and with other those trying to make a difference here in the Hillsboro and Washington. We appreciate our partners this evening. Let me start off by talking a little bit about the Port of Portland. Sorry, I forgot that I have to work the two things at the same time here. Sorry. Let me get a little update here. So let me talk a little bit about the Port of Portland in general before we get into specifics about the Hillsboro Airport. The port has been around about 125 years. It was chartered in 1891 by the Oregon legislature to basically provide a clear channel from the mouth of the Columbia through the Columbia River and the Willamette River to Portland and make sure that there was navigable rivers to get to the sea. Today, the port's work has grown to include the 3 airports that I think most people are familiar with: PDX, Hillsboro Airport here, and the Troutdale Airport, and 3 marine terminals and 5 industrial parks throughout our region as well. Through this work, I'm really proud to say that the port really is an economic engine for our region and creates a lot of job opportunities for individuals, and has been that way for quite a few years. I think this is a great map that we have. It gives you an idea of the footprint of our properties throughout the metropolitan area. It's hard to see Hillsboro Airport very off the side, actually out of the photo range on this photo here. But it gives you a good idea through the Portland region, just how big the footprint of our assets, resources are. Really, again, just kind of reiterating, our role is really to help in connecting those industries to create those jobs throughout our region and then attract those quality employers to the state of Oregon. And now I'll take a little bit of time to talk about our Hillsboro Airport here. So Hillsboro Airport, I think most people are aware, but I'll do a little bit of background, and so some of this might be just old information for a lot of folks, but hopefully some new information for some folks on the line as well. Hillsboro Airport is a general aviation airport. When I say general aviation, what that means is it does not have scheduled air service. It supports recreational, business aviation, and flight training, kind of the 3 big elements of general aviation. It is by volume the second busiest airport in the state of Oregon, with nearly 180,000 takeoffs and landings. last year. And it spans almost 1,000 acres, about 965 acres in Hillsboro and across the street in parts of Washington County. Excuse me. Hillsboro has about 350 base aircraft at the airport. Of that, about 40 of them, as you can see, there are base business jets, as well as there's about 20 businesses, privately owned businesses on airport, which I'll take the next slide to talk a little bit about here as well. Of those businesses, which my slides match up with what I'm seeing here. Of those businesses, 3 of them are fixed base operators. I think if you go to a general aviation airport, most people are familiar with what that means. But for the public, a fixed base operator is where a pilot or somebody who was looking for aviation services, private business would go to. They provide fuel, they provide hangar storage, they might provide maintenance for an aircraft and those types of things. We have 3 of them at Hillsboro Airport. There are local corporate flight departments, Nike, I think some of those people are familiar with, Columbia Sportswear, Ochico, and others are have their aircraft and their pilots and their business interests based at the airport. Flight training, we have 2 flight schools with Hillsboro Aero Academy and Northwest Wings Aviation. And what's coming, what we have had at Hillsboro Airport for almost 2 decades. If you travel through any international airport, when you're coming back into the US, you go through what is a federal inspection station, an immigration station where you check your passport and that. Hillsboro has quite a bit of international business aviation activity. And prior to the pandemic, we had a customs and border protection facility at the airport, where if you were returning, whether from Canada, from Asia, or from Europe on an aircraft, you could clear your customs in Hillsboro. As you can all remember, I think many of us can remember going back 5 years, international flying kind of disappeared for a few months and almost a year and a half. And so we are in the process of bringing that facility back online at Hillsboro. So to have a customs facility that will allow international travelers on business aviation jets to be able to clear that customs at Hillsboro Airport. So let me give a little bit more, that's the general background about the port, and a little bit of general background about Hillsboro Airport. Let me give a little more specifics about what's been going on at Hillsboro in the last months and years since we've had an opportunity to be in front of the community here to everyone. Taxiway, you can see the list here of what I will hopefully cover. And if I forget anything, please point it out for me now. Taxiway K. Taxiway K here at Hillsboro. There's a good picture of the map of it. For Taxiway Kilo, you're using the phonetic alphabet, connects to the 2 runways of Hillsboro at the north end. There had been no connector between the 2 runways, so to improve the flow of aircraft on the ground, by improving the flow of aircraft on the ground, that's less emissions and less fuel that has to be burned to get a pilot either to or from the runway or to where they're trying to park and shut down. So we built a connecting taxiway between the 2 runways and the 2 taxiways that parallels them to help out air traffic to the circulation of that. It definitely adds to the efficiency of overall movement of aircraft with less distance for them to taxi at the airport. The air traffic control tower at Hillsboro, that I think some people have seen, maybe not everybody, because it's kind of buried on the interior of the airport. It is about 60 years old. It went through a rehabilitation and refresh about 30 years ago. It's on the west side of the airport there, kind of between the intersection of the 2 runways you can see in that graphic on the right. The FAA has proposed the building of a new tower at the airport for multiple reasons, mostly for seismic reasons as well as for visibility. The current height of that tower does not allow complete visibility, well, the best complete visibility of all ends of all runways. And so in order to rectify that situation, the FAA does this at most facilities around the US where we own these control towers. They go through a program of replacement of them as well. So currently Hillsboro is in line for that. We've gone through some studies with the FAA on siting of that facility at the airport. It's now going through the FAA's permitting and development process for that, with hopeful construction maybe by the end of the decade and a commissioning of that, the FAA's commissioning of that facility sometime early in the next decade. They don't have, like I said, they don't have a specific timeline that we have for construction of that, but it is part of a priority for the federal government to place these throughout the US. The other thing that has happened recently, you haven't probably seen this because it hasn't broken ground, but there is a new hangar development that is on the books to occur here at Hillsboro. Sky Harbor, which is a private firm that develops hangars for aircraft storage, has recently completed a land lease negotiations with the port for an undeveloped parcel along Brookwood Parkway, pretty much across the street from the library location and the lighted intersection there on Brookwood. If you're familiar with where the Ochco with the glass hangar is, north of that, kind of towards the intersection. It was designated in the last airport master plan that we had done in 2018 for this type of use for future business aviation development. This company is currently working with the city of Hillsboro to obtain development permits. It has a planned public meeting for the project as well. New development will access northwest the Brookwood Parkway at the intersection and at the lighted intersection there at the library, so traffic impacts would not be that great for it. And on airport, the existing taxiway system will support that, so there's no other new infrastructure necessary for this type of thing. But wanted to share this type of development. These are very common nowadays across general aviation airports for either replacement or new development of aviation hangars. And then a couple other things here. Just talk a little bit about ongoing construction and maintenance and overhaul of facilities that happens on an airport on any given time. I talked a little bit about taxiway kilo, which is a new development, but pavement and management of pavement and existing pavements is always critical for airports, just like it is for cities and counties, to make sure that the roadway system can work and operate on is efficient and safe. At Hillsboro earlier this year, we undertook a pavement replacement project for taxiway B, that is the taxiway that parallels the crosswind runway at Hillsboro. So that facility, that pavement was over 30 years old and required replacement. So we, with the federal government, with FAA funding, were able to replace that taxiway in kind, basically take out the old taxiway and put a new one in its place and replace that. We also work with funds from the Oregon Department of Aviation for pavement maintenance, as well as our own funds. That does things like the photo on the left side, just like you see on your own city streets, crack sealing, slurry sealing, those types of things, basically extending the life of pavements that we do on any given basis. I think that's pretty much what we have for this year for that. I guess I wanted to just kind of emphasize that those are ongoing things that happen kind of pretty much on an annual basis at airports. Just wanted to highlight those two that had happened here at Hillsboro in the last summer. I think many people remember back to the spring, the Oregon International Air Show, which now they have two events, one at Hillsboro in the spring, one at McMinnville later in the fall. This year's air show happened in May. There was a crowd of about 48,000 that visited the airport for the event, with over 1,000 volunteers from the community to help support that. Again, as Chris had mentioned, many of the performers this year also included exhibits on STEM education, career paths in aviation, technology, and development for aviation, not just what we traditionally think of as an air show, really emphasizing the overall importance of those career paths that could be through aviation, but also that kind of gain the interest of young adults into perhaps following down the career path of an engineer or some other field that supports aviation, but maybe not directly in the cockpit. This year they had over, I'm just going to be back to, they had over 2,000 third graders and 800 eighth graders from many of the area schools that were able to attend the event and tour the STEM exhibits and facilities that have been there for this year. Next year, we're happy to support the Oregon Air Show as they move forward with another event or another air show, and hopefully in the mid-May timeframe as well for here at Hillsboro. And before we kind of wrap up at least the update on the airports, I just want to talk a little bit about PDX. I guess I kind of forgot to introduce my role. I'm the director of airports for the port, so with responsibility for PDX as well as Hillsboro and our Troutdale airports. So I'd like to just, while we have your attention here, talk a little bit about PDX and some of the things, a couple of the things, major things that we've got going on right now. As I mentioned in 2018, we had done a master plan here at Hillsboro, and the master plan looks at what facilities might, the current facilities that an airport has, the projections for the future, what are going to be the needs as we move forward in the future for aviation, what deficit might that facility have, and then what might some options be to meet that deficit for new facilities that might be necessary. In 2018, we completed one for Hillsboro. Right now for PDX, you're in the middle to the second half of the one that we are doing for Portland. We had done one over a decade ago at PDX, and the results of that were really what guided us into the terminal and the facilities that you see today. It didn't specifically say build a wood roof facility with beautiful arching ceiling and that, but it did talk about the need for this types of facility, the size of facility, the size and resiliency that is in our facility now. And the facility, the same thing that we did in Hillsboro, it didn't say exactly what to build this or to do that, but it guides the type of development. One that is going on right now is in the process of looking at the alternatives and some options for what PDX might look like by 2045, mainly around the facilities of what type of runways do we need, what type of curb, what type of accessibility. We certainly know that what the airport has now from a capacity standpoint, from a passenger services with the terminal that we have, but some other amenities and things like that that we are working through. The goal is to complete that plan by the end of spring, early summer of 2026. And I just want to share that we are in the process right now. We have a survey for some of the outlines of options of what we're looking at. You can use the QR code that's in your packet to take that survey. It's open through the 14th of this month, I believe. And and you can also sign up for updates and project updates at px2045.org. And if you want to follow that process and know what your regional commercial service airport can look like. So that's my little bit of PDX update there, if I can get that in. And then just kind of wanted to go back to Hillsboro and cover a little bit about their aircraft and airport noise. It's obviously one of the things that aviation has in the community is an impact on it. And noise is one of the ones. It's one of the ones that the industry for 20 or 30 more years has certainly been trying to improve its relationship and its impacts on communities that surround what we're talking here.
Josh, I've not seen any improvement. I'm impacted by Hillsboro Airport. Sorry. You can say all these nice things, but it's not happening.
Okay.
Can you please wait until we're?
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay. I'm just generally laying out the general thing here. And so it is a concern here. The FAA is the authority that establishes those thresholds for what is an acceptable level in the community and also the paths and the tracks the aircraft fly as they go around here. The port's noise program is to track the community's comments and provide that feedback and input to the FAA as they develop those noise profiles and plans that they try to do. The port can be reached through our noise hotline, our online web boards, and our emails. And some of the things that we've tried to do infrastructure-wise here at Hillsboro to alleviate some of that impact on the community. 10 years ago in 2015, we constructed a new runway parallel to the current runway, to the main runway at Hillsboro, basically separate out some of the small traffic like flight training, so that that could occur over the northeast side, which occurs over the Brooklyn Parkway area, over the Brookwood, and over the Evergreen Road areas and industrial areas, and try as much as possible to avoid and minimize the areas either south and west of the airport. In 2019, it's not something we can specifically take credit for, but certainly are happy that we occurred working with some of the flight schools. Most of the helicopter, the very local helicopter flight training has moved off site to other airports in the area. Doesn't mean it doesn't occur here, but the levels of activities for that are certainly decreased, which is actually a benefit for our local community as well. We also partner with businesses on the airport and with the FAA and with air traffic controllers to try to develop what we call fly friendly, which allows us and emphasizes avoiding the overflight of single patients repeatedly during training, and to manage the pitch of an aircraft's props so that it has a better noise profile as they minimize the noise as it's overflying communities, and to utilize as best as possible flight paths. Again, it's up to the discretion of the FAA or those pilots, but to emphasize and to develop flight paths and utilize flight paths that overfly as much of the sparsely parts of the community as possible. Again, not always able to do that, but trying to do that as much as possible. And again, also reaching out with flight instructors and flight schools to emphasize those training and those protocols that it's hopefully minimize the impacts to the community as much as possible. Again, realizing that there are always some level of impact. The other thing I wanted to address with Hillsboro, and I'm sure there are many who would like to talk about this later as well. And we have teams here as well to talk about noise and about this issue, and that is unleaded aviation fuels. For the background, currently the only universally approved fuel for the FAA has for aviation or piston engine aircraft contains a small amount of lead still in the fuel, just like vehicles did many years ago. The port is committed to bringing and supporting the transition to an unleaded fuel here at Hillsboro. Obviously, the benefits are reductions in emissions, improvements in air quality, and obviously also aligning with national efforts to eliminate lead from fuels of all types. This is obviously important to us, important to residents of Hillsboro, it's important to many communities throughout this. But I want to also emphasize that the port cannot and does not make regulatory and or supply chain decisions about these types of fuels. They are done by the individual businesses that provide this type of fuel here at Hillsboro Airport. What we can do is work with them to prepare facilities and support through incentives a voluntary adoption of fuels that are currently coming to market or currently on the market or coming to market that can support some of the aircraft that and so for use of an unleaded replacement fuel product. In August of this year, we released what is shown here on the slide as well, an unleaded avgas readiness and transition plan. We had invited public feedback throughout 24, or we had invited public feedback to that draft, and we were focusing on making sure our plan was clear and useful and had milestones that people could understand. We wanted to invite feedback from those who have participated in some listening and some engagement sessions in 24 and 25 that our teams have done through roundtables, community roundtables, pilot focus groups, as well as meetings with elected officials and some local government leaders. Based on that feedback that we received through August, we clarified some of the sections in our readiness transition plan. We wanted to add some timeline, some timeframes for engagement with some of the businesses at the airport to see their interest in their level of willingness to transition from those. Not all of the comments made it in as edits, but were important for us to note. Some of those, for example, were requests for very specific information about usages and those. And our role for including information in that was really to demonstrate the overall scale of the impacts of these types of fuel at the airport. And also some comments were made back to us about engagement on health concerns and health effects of these types of fuels. And really, that's really the role of public health agencies. The port is not a public health agency, but we're certainly willing to work with those public health agencies as well to be able to provide that data to whatever we have. And so I would also say if information on this, and I think it's right there on the bottom right, or on the bottom of both lines, you can see is available at portofportland.com/HIO/ready fuel. And now, after that, I'm going to be able to pass. Yes, I'm going to pass it to June, my colleague June, talk a little bit about one other thing that we have here in the community. And
Yeah.
June.
Thanks, Pete. All right, so this is the last update we have for you all before public comment, so I'll keep it brief. As many folks know, we host, we host a block party at the Hillsboro Airport every year. And this was gonna be, I believe, our 26th year hosting the block party. And this is an annual open house for kids and families. But we made the difficult decision to cancel this year's block party. That was because of recent concerns around increased federal activity in the Portland area. And we know a lot of folks were disappointed. There were folks like Greater Than and Oregon Airship Charitable Foundation who were going to be there. But we also heard a lot of understanding about this decision. And so while this year didn't go as planned, we really hope to have you all next year. The block party will be the second Saturday in October. I wish I wrote down the exact date because maybe we could put it on our calendars now, but we hope to see you there. And so with that, I'll pass it back to Francis. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, June. Thank you, Steve. Lots of good information, lots of good food for thought. And now we have those thoughts. So for this part, opening it up for questions and answers. If you're a Zoom participant, you're providing the comment or asking the question, you can add your full name to the Q&A box. All of us will have 3 minutes to speak. Karen will be doing the timekeeping, and I will give you a 30-second warning when it's about time so that you can bring your thoughts to a close. In-person participants, if you haven't written your name on the sign-up sheet, Jonathan has that, or you can tell Jonathan. I would like to say one other thing before we start. We want to make sure that what you have to say is if we want to be able to hear it. One of our community agreements is that we will listen to understand, and everybody at the Port of Portland is agreeing to that we are going to listen to understand. We have worked on this to make sure that we have a process where everyone will be able to do that. So we ask that you respect our process. And with that, we are going to start with, we have one virtual person who has, you're still a person, one person who is in the virtual area who has raised their hand, and then from there we will go in a random order for the people who are in. So, and in lieu of mispronouncing your last names, I'm gonna start with just your first name, because I don't see any duplicate first names, so I think that might be the best way to go. So Elena, on the Zoom call, please proceed. You unmuted and are you there? Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, my name is Elena Brogazova, and I joined this meeting to address aircraft noise issue in Southwest Portland, where I live. I'm not close to Hillsboro, but we are affected by training aircraft, by private planes and helicopters a great deal. We are affected by the next gen implementation, by commercial aviation, so planes flying every 15 minutes to every 1 minute, Saturday, Sunday. We have no holidays or weekends from the noise. We cannot rest at home. We cannot concentrate at work. We cannot sleep at times because they fly at night. Hillsboro is adding to this with private and training. So we would like to address this noise. On paper, it looks real good that the issue is being addressed. We have been reporting this to Port of Portland for 4 years. They responded that there is no change, and since then they keep ignoring us. So we contact everyone we could, and Steve, I would like to connect with you. If I could get your contact information, I could provide you much more detail. During this last years, I have accumulated a lot of documentation about the noise, about a lot of screenshots I could show and share. But this is becoming unbearable and nobody is addressing the issue, which is being ignored. The FAA is ignoring as well. So we're trying to find a way how we address this. And Hillsboro is a great deal. It's a great part of it. And we would like to, address this partially to mitigate it a little bit, maybe, or to find some solutions to this. We deserve a better life than this. And I put this in the comments. If you can provide Steve's information, contact information, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. We have noted all of this and we will take this into consideration. Next in the room is David. David, you're welcome to come up here or we can bring a microphone to you. Okay.
Thank you. I'm David Barnes. I'm with an organization called Oregon Aviation Launch. I have heard remarks. I'm going to read some of them, but basically, I want to say that it's a good thing to try and involve the community of kids and families. But the lead issue is of concern to me because lead is poison. It's especially hard on children, and it actually lowers the IQs in students and inhibits bone growth in young children. It's nasty stuff. There's a reason why we took it out of auto gas. And Nikki and I are working along with a lot of other people over there to try to get unleaded aviation gas. And there's a lot of foot dragging. And I know that, again, it looked good on paper, but we participated in the roundtables that were held. And they didn't publicize them widely. There were no elected officials attending, and they did separate gatherings for those of us who were concerned about the lead issue versus people who were dropping the lead on us, pilots, and so forth. They had separate sessions. And we feel like the report can really do a good job addressing this. It looks good on the slides. But it's been an issue for many, many years. We took that stuff out of car gas in the 90s for a reason. As Steve said, there are other agencies that are involved. FAA promised to have lead out of gas by 2018. Do it. Health agencies, there's a requirement for the Oregon Health Plan and other Medicaid programs to test children's blood for lead. That Oregon doesn't do it. They're in violation of that law. And so basically, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And I have the reports thinking about kids and students, but if you really care, you're trying harder not to put lead in the air with you.
Thank you, Rita. That's just Jim.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Jim Lucier, a retired pediatrician and concerned about the lead emissions from HIO. Especially since our airport here has been ranked number 8 in the nation for lead emissions. Now, 5 studies have shown higher blood lead levels in children at the airports. A while back, I had a 1-year-old patient of mine who had lead in their blood test. The only source we could come up with was that she lived near HIO. Mom asked, what could she do? I said she could move. No, she said she couldn't. She was on welfare. Now, just recently, the port's plan has come out, and the plan is for prohibiting red-containing fuels. The plan says they can't at this time because there is no lead-free fuel that is FAA approved for all aircraft. The language of the FAA Reauthorization Act does not say the unleaded aviation fuel must be approved for all aircraft. Rather, it says for nearly all. Now, presently, 98.7% of aircraft have a fuel, it's G100 that the FAA has approved for those aircraft, 98.7%. Now, the Reauthorization Act and the Grant Assurance 40, which came from the reauthorization, says that the airport can prohibit leaded fuel and supply, actually, they can supply leaded fuel and then prohibit the unleaded. They can supply the unleaded fuel, G100 and then prohibit the leaded fuel from being used. And let's see, I just wanted to let everyone know that there's a lead-free fuel, and I just told you that. So there's a mix-up in the language in contamination. The report says we can't use the lead fuel until all aircraft have been approved by the FAA, whereas the Reauthorization Act and the subsequent Grant Assurance 40 says it just needs to be nearly all of the aircraft need to be able to use it. Anyway, hopefully we can look at that language in the report.
Thank you, Chief. This is Rosie. You can stay there, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. We're here with UT to represent our families and our community. Being able to listen and know what's happening in our communities is important to us as youth. We hope to be part of future meetings and continue to bring awareness to our families and friends in our neighborhoods.
And next is Jade.
Leadership balance, obviously effectively as for custom and order collections facility. How is that gonna impact our the Hillsboro Airport? Oops. Yes.
Am I going to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, hi, my name is Betsy. I'm currently a student at Greenfield High School. A concern that I had was about next year's block party. That, even if if government activity, even if it goes down, what are some safety precautions you guys will be taking for next year's block party to prevent like government activity to like show up on the block party? Like,
Yes. This way or in the. I'm happy.
Okay.
I'll follow with it. Hi, I'm Mickey Barnes. I'm with Oregon Aviation Watch. And I do have a question related in addition to a comment. And the question is, at a state Department of Aviation meeting, you were there, Steve. It was back in August. And there was a comment made where there is a federal requirement now that airports that receive federal money have to agree to abide by ICE and Trump administration deportation policies. Now, I know that the Port of Portland revoked their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies back in April in order to receive federal money. Has the Port of Portland, in order to receive federal grants, agreed to abide by ICE deportation policies? And have other airports across the state? If so, I would like to obtain a list of every airport in Oregon. And I would like to urge the state of Oregon to stop funding any airport for payment or whatever it might be who are catering to ICE and these inhumane policies. That's my question. Now my comment. Okay. Now the comment is, we spent about 6 hours, Jim and Blaine and David and I out. It was the summer of 2024, collecting signatures. We developed a petition to ban flight training in Washington County. The signatories on this petition support a ban on flight training in the skies over Washington County. Flight training over homes and neighborhoods has an adverse impact on human health, wildlife, and biodiversity. Our goal is to live in a quiet, peaceful, and respectful surroundings that enhance the livability and quality of life for all residents. Flight training runs counter to these aspirations. Moreover, with its relentless noise and reliance on toxic fossil fuels, it poses a significant threat to public health. In addition, it is a major contributor to global warming, extreme weather events, environmental pollution, and ecological degradation. There's also, I won't go into it because David and Jim already talked about the lead, but Washington County is the most lead polluted jurisdiction in the entire state. And most of it's coming from Hillsboro Airport. I believe 93% of the lead released in Washington County is from aviation activity. So anyway, in that 6 hours we spent out there, we have about 30 signatures. I'm happy to leave them with you. If anybody else wants to sign our petition, we're happy to accept your name.
And I've also brought a couple flyers which we developed on lead poisoning, which I'm happy to share with anybody who wants them. I have extra ones, and it just talks about the really horrible toxic effect of lead. Causes an increase in juvenile delinquency, an increase in violence in adults, a decrease in IQ, even at very low amounts. Well, 30 seconds, well below the CBC threshold of 3.5. This is horrible stuff. And you gotta wonder what kind of civilized community would daily dose this community with layer after layer after layer of lead. And that's in addition to the noise, the benzene, and the other toxins. This is not okay. It needs to stop. Please sign our petition. Sorry for that. She had to leave at 6.
Oh,
She was a
fine.
babysitter.
Then I have her, we can put this in.
Great, so we also had some questions that came in before, and Julie's gonna respond to those now.
Everyone, I guess we're gonna do a couple of things here. So I have a couple of questions submitted online that I wanted to briefly touch on, and then for the rest of the questions and comments in this room, what we're gonna do is we're gonna end our Zoom meeting, and thank you everyone for being there. And then we're just gonna have table discussion. So we'll have we'll probably have one different board person at the table. So I'll give more directions later so the Zoom folks can kind of get on with their evening, but I just wanted to put 2 questions and answers out there about what we had received. And so the first one was how can contractors receive RFP invitations for Hillsboro Airport projects? And to receive notifications about port bidding opportunities, you'll need to register your company in our vendor portal, and that's really the best way to get those notifications. And when you register, the guidance I got was that to include any applicable certifications you have, and also make sure you select the appropriate commodity code that matches the services you provide. So to get to that, we go to www.portland.com/business/vendors. Also do a Google search for Planet Bids and Port of Portland and find that. The other question I have is future community events. When will these be? So again, we will have the block party the second Saturday of October. The Oregon Air Show happens in May annually. And we will have another forum in spring, date to be announced. But you can expect another forum like this in the spring. And so with that, we will we'll be signing off to our online folks. Thank you all so much for coming. And then I will give some directions for the group inside. So can we clap it up for our virtual? That's awesome.